now by John McMullen, fresh off the Eagles' first preseason game, live from M&T Bank Stadium. J-Mac, welcome to the program, man. An ugly first preseason game for the Birds.
Yeah, about as ugly as you can get if you take out the garbage time Cole Payton touchdown, as Ed Kratz last at me. Yeah, I mean, they had, I think, 80 total yards going into that drive and late in the fourth quarter. And so let's be honest, that's garbage time. So it looks a little bit better on the final stat sheet. But you mentioned the penalties. I think there's a lot to learn from this particular game, and that is, and I'm talking about from outside. The Eagles will obviously learn from it, but again, we're all caught up in scheme and concepts and that, be effective on first and second down. If you're not effective, you're in 3rd and 15, you're in 3rd and 12. You become predictable. You're not predictable because of play calling. You're predictable because of situation, and that's what the Eagles were today. It's a vanilla game plan, no doubt about that.
I mean, PTSD from last year, though, John, literally the same thing. I mean, how many times did you say that last year?
Yeah. And that's what it's about. And they got behind it. You mentioned the 10 penalties. I don't know how many were. There are at least 5 or maybe more holding penalties. I haven't checked it out, the exact number yet. But, 3rd and 2 became 3rd and 12. 3rd and 5 became 3rd and 15. Yep. And then there were a couple of 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 5 that are more manageable that you'd like to get done. And one, Darius Cooper didn't track the football well. Another one, it was poorly thrown. So, I mean, they didn't play well. That's number one, and that's always number one. And you can't blame it on not playing the starters because the Ravens didn't play their starters. So it was basically an even playing field. And the Ravens rookie quarterback looked better than the Eagles' veteran backup quarterbacks. Bottom line. And I think some of the defensive issues with the backup players kind of got lost in the offensive ineptitude. I don't think they played well either. A couple splash plays you think about. I just got done talking to Nick. We were talking about those 2 plays, and they're nice bounce back plays. You want to see that from your players. I'm talking about Sean Wade stripping the football, but he also got beat for the reception. He missed the tackle, and then he deserves credit for hustling back and stripping the football. Keely Ringo gets a big defensive pass interference and then bounces back with the nice interception, which is nice to see. And you want to see guys flush bad plays and be able to get back, but you'd also like them to not have the bad plays. So not a lot of good. You got to really dig to find the good in this, and there's always a little bit. But let's be honest, for what this whole offseason was billed as, this was a disaster. To show this to be the first public impression of this offense. They didn't convert a 3rd down all night.
0 for 9. 0 for 9, John.
All night. They had 80 yards. They were a heartbeat away. If it wasn't, and by the way,
you sat in traffic for this, McMullen? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And by the way, all the Cole Payton stuff was off schedule.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with the offense. It was just a guy who's mobile, making plays.
Exactly, it was. Even the touchdown, obviously, flushed to his right out of the pocket, made a good play that to keep his eyes downfield. But yeah, you're right about that, John. 10 penalties, though. Do you put that on the coaching staff, dude? I mean, how do you have 10 penalties in this game like that? You said it. I mean, how many times did it set them back on offense? I mean, they go 0 for 9 on 3rd down. A lot of those times because of brutal penalties. Where do you put the blame for that, Johnny Mac? I think it's. I don't want to say it's unacceptable. It's preseason football. I don't want to overreact, but 10 penalties? I mean, come on. Where do you put the blame for that?
Well, it's far too much. I mean, at least half of them, as I said, were offensive holding. And let's be honest. I mean, Miles Hinton's not going to be here. If he is, he's going to be on the practice squad. He had 2 of them. Jake Majors got beat. He's not going to be here unless it's going to be on the practice squad. So a lot of it is, I think, just guys being overwhelmed, and that's usually a technique and a fundamental issue. But yeah, it's unacceptable. You're not going to have to worry about that when the starting offensive line is out there. And they weren't. Everybody got dressed like they were going to play. We talked about that, and they just wanted them to get used to it. and then pulled everybody back with the exception of Jihad Campbell. Poor Jihad had to play. I think he was the only starter who played. Even Marcus Epps didn't play. A little surprised by that, but Nick explained he's a little bit older, so they wanted to, manage his workload a little bit because they have the big joint practices with the Patriots this week, and the first team's going to get all their work with those two practices. So made some sense from that standpoint. Drew Makuba, as a second-year player, would be in the same category as Jihad, but he didn't play. So a little bit curious from that standpoint. But, the Ravens didn't play anybody either. It's not like Lamar Jackson was out there or
Zay Flowers. They didn't have any.
Zay Flowers or Derrick Henry or their starting offensive line. So, and by the way, they got a USC receiver that produced, rookie receiver that produced in
Jacoby Lane.
Yeah. So, who was a very good player. So, but I mean, just the optics of this whole talk about scheme and it shows up like a T.S. Eliot for those who read. You're expecting a bang and you got a whimper.
Brutal stuff there. John, we'll start on the positives, then we'll get into some of those things here. Won't keep you too long. I know you got a carpool back, get back home. So we hope you do that safely, obviously, this evening. John, I had a couple positives in the game. I wanted you to tell me what you think. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was one of my positives out there. I thought he had a pretty good night, looked really good. He had the sack. I think he had a couple quarterback hits, 5 tackles in his first couple drives or however long he played out there. I thought Markel Bell looked pretty solid. And then not much after that. Jihad Campbell, I thought, had a pretty good night. And I liked what Sean Wade did just from the hustle standpoint. I know he got beat, but he had that hustle play to get the turnover. And then that one play got beat as well, hustled back and forced the incompletion. But outside of that, not many positives. What'd you make of my positives? And maybe you had a couple more to add. Or maybe
well, I mentioned Wade, but I mentioned it more the strip circuits they do. They do so much of that in practice that people don't get to see. And he was able to, use it in practicality in the game. I thought Ringo bouncing back after the pass. I thought Ty Robinson played pretty well. He got caught for that defensive personal foul, roughing the passer late. But before that, he had a sack. He was pretty good stopping the run.
Yeah, nice sack. Yep.
So I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought the operation, that was about the only thing positive about the offense. It wasn't terrible. There was one pre-snap penalty, but Nick didn't believe it had anything to do with some of those issues you might have when you get too close to the play clock and things like that. So, but there wasn't a lot of positive, and it's generally more esoteric positives than on the field positive, especially offensively. I think Will Shipley had 2 nice runs. They went. They only had two.
I think Markel Bell had the seal block on one of those.
He did. He did. They only had 2 first downs in the first half. So, and they only had 4 first downs until the Cole Payton drive in the entire game. The first 2, again, this isn't rocket science. The first 2 were the Will Shipley runs. One was like 8, one was like 9. So you're set up in a situation where it's easy to convert. And, Markel Bell, it's not just Will, but as you mentioned, Markel Bell's block. But when you put yourself in those positions, you're going to be successful.
Right.
And if you're living on 3rd and long, I don't care who your coordinator is. I don't care what your scheme is. I don't even care what players you have. You're not going to be consistently successful.